Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time.
As economic indicators flash warning signs across multiple sectors, President Donald Trump's recent comments have raised eyebrows among financial analysts and market watchers alike. In a striking departure from his previous economic optimism, Trump has begun preparing Americans for what he carefully termed a period of transition, language that many economists interpret as laying groundwork for a potential downturn. While his administration officials rush to project confidence, the president's own words tell a different story. Quote, "Look, we're going to have disruption, but we're okay with that." This calculated shift in messaging, combined with troubling economic data, including a potential first-quarter contraction, suggests the administration may be bracing for economic headwinds stronger than publicly acknowledged. Decoding Trump's new economic narrative.
A lot of people said, oh, this is the business president. This is it. He's watching the stock market. He knows all about, he doesn't want the market to go down. And now we've got tariffs and the market has been going down.
Well, not much. I mean, in all fairness,
you said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
President Trump's economic messaging has undergone a remarkable transformation in recent weeks, signaling potential concerns about the nation's financial outlook. Where once he proudly pointed to stock market gains as validation of his economic stewardship, he now cautions Americans against using Wall Street as a measuring stick for success. During his recent appearance on Sunday Morning Futures, the president specifically advised that, quote, "You can't really watch the stock market," a striking reversal for someone who previously treated market indices as economic report cards. This shift coincides with Trump's introduction of carefully crafted terminology around economic expectations. His repeated references to a period of transition suggest preparation for turbulence rather than continued prosperity. When directly questioned about recession possibilities, Trump noticeably hesitated, stating he, quote, "hates to predict things like that." Hardly the confident denial one might expect from a president certain of economic strength. Even more telling was his acknowledgement that Americans should expect disruption in the coming months. The president framed this disruption as necessary, saying, quote, "We're okay with that," language that appears designed to cushion the impact of potentially disappointing economic news. Throughout his comments, Trump emphasized the administration's economic agenda is very big and takes a little time, rhetoric that establishes a narrative where short-term economic pain might be attributed to the scale of policy changes rather than their effectiveness. This messaging pivot represents a significant departure from Trump's first-term approach when economic challenges were typically downplayed or denied outright. Now the president speaks of building a tremendous foundation, language that implies current sacrifices for future gains. The timing of this narrative shift aligns suspiciously with mounting evidence of economic headwinds, suggesting the administration may be preparing Americans for disappointing economic data in the coming quarters. By reframing economic expectations and establishing that his focus is on, quote, "building a strong country rather than short-term market performance," Trump appears to be insulating himself against potential political fallout from an economic downturn. Alarming economic indicators.
Are we talking about recession, or is this one of those sort of stagflation scenarios that a lot of economists have been warning about for the past few weeks?
So my own probability of recession has gone up from 10% at the beginning of the year to somewhere between 25 and 30%. So it's a risk scenario. It is not a baseline.
Behind the administration's careful messaging lies mounting evidence that economic trouble may indeed be brewing. Perhaps most alarming is the Atlanta Federal Reserve's GDP Now tracker, which is currently projecting a 2.4% decline in first-quarter growth. If accurate, this would mark the first quarter of negative growth in 3 years and represent the most significant economic contraction since the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. This potential decline cannot be dismissed as a minor blip. It would represent a fundamental reversal of post-pandemic recovery momentum and possibly signal the beginning of a broader economic downturn. The Atlanta Fed's model has proven reasonably accurate in recent years, making its current projection particularly concerning. Trade figures offer additional cause for alarm. The U.S. recorded a staggering $131.4 billion trade deficit in January, an all-time record. This ballooning deficit stems partly from companies rushing to stockpile inventory ahead of Trump's planned tariff increases, creating artificial demand that may evaporate in subsequent quarters. When combined with January's reported pullback in consumer spending, these figures paint a troubling picture for an economy where consumer activity drives more than 2/3 of GDP. The labor market, while appearing solid in headline numbers, reveals significant weaknesses upon closer inspection. February's addition of 151,000 jobs masked concerning underlying trends. The real unemployment rate, which includes discouraged workers and those employed part-time for economic reasons, surged to 8%, representing a 0.5 percentage point increase and the highest level since October 2021. This sharp rise occurred primarily due to a 460,000 increase in workers holding part-time positions for economic reasons, a 10% jump that pushed this category to its highest level since May 2021. Most concerning was the stated reason: slack work or deteriorating business conditions. Additionally, full-time employment plummeted by 1.2 million, while part-time roles increased by 610,000. This shift from full-time to part-time work often precedes broader layoffs and is a classic pre-recession indicator. Wall Street firms are increasingly acknowledging these risks. Goldman Sachs recently raised its 12-month recession probability to 20%, up from 15% previously, while simultaneously cutting its 2025 GDP growth forecast to just 1.7%. JP Morgan's assessment is even more pessimistic, placing recession probability at 35%. These are significant adjustments from institutions typically hesitant to forecast economic downturns. The administration's contradictory messages.
Should Americans brace for a recession?
Absolutely not.
While President Trump's cautious language suggests awareness of economic challenges ahead, other administration officials have adopted strikingly different tones, creating a contradictory chorus of economic assessments. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has been particularly bullish, declaring there would be, quote, no recession in America, no chance. This absolute certainty contrasts sharply with the president's own hesitation to rule out a downturn. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett has similarly projected optimism while attempting to manage expectations. He characterized the negative GDP projections as, quote, a very, very temporary phenomenon, while simultaneously attributing any potential downturn to the Biden inheritance. This dual approach of predicting both temporary difficulties and long-term success allows the administration to claim credit for eventual improvements while deflecting blame for immediate challenges. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has perhaps been most revealing, describing the current economic moment as requiring a, quote, detox period, as the economy moves away from what he characterized as addiction to government spending. This medical metaphor implicitly acknowledges pain ahead while framing it as necessary for long-term health. The administration has consistently tried to position any potential downturn as the inevitable result of previous policies rather than their own. Hassett specifically attributed negative economic indicators to, quote, the Biden inheritance and some timing effects that are happening ahead of tariffs. This strategy of preemptive blame allocation is typical of administrations anticipating economic difficulties that they cannot prevent. Now it's time to hear from you. As consumers and businesses navigate this uncertain landscape, the question remains, will this period of transition be a temporary disruption or the beginning of a larger economic downturn? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section.